three dynasts of mankind. And these dynasties were Ife Odayi. Ife Odayi was the first society God created, society of inhabitants that God first created. It was called Ife Odayi. That's why Odayi simply means first creation, something that God first created. So Ife means expansion, land of expansion. That's the meaning of Ife, Ile Ife. So Ife of the first creation. Now, to populate that society, sir, God sent or seconded, from the celestial, seconded 401 deities that we know as Irunmole. Kí ni ìtumọ̀ Irunmole? Ìmọ́lẹ̀ Irinwó. Any member of that 401 family is given that name Irunmole. Ìmọ́lẹ̀ Irinwó ni wọ́n ń pè ní Irunmole. So you have Ogun, you have Obatala, you have Oramfe. You have several of them with different responsibility assigned by God. Like Ogun was a pathfinder, was a chief pathfinder. He was the first engineer on earth. Because when they all came, everywhere was bushy. It was like a forest, go jungle. So they had to start paving, ways, clearing the bush. And so somebody came with the technology to do that. That was Ogun. And that is why till today, Ogun is still regarded as God of Iron. And Ogun is not just God of Iron. Ogun is actually an engineer, because he didn't just make iron. He didn't just make iron. He met iron and then converted it to different kind of instruments that could be used in the field of engineering, like cutlasses, hoes, everything. So that era, of course, had to be terminated. God decided to terminate that era for the reasons also as explained in the Bible and Quran. And what the Bible and Quran says, it's not so different. It's not too different from what Ifa also said. They began to sort of misbehaving. They started misbehaving to God, and God saw a reason to end them, and then sent one of the 401 prophets, because they also regard them as prophets then, by name Lua. His name is Lua. I said among them you have Ogun, you have Oramfe, God of fire, Oya, God of river, goddess of river, Osun, goddess of river, all of them. And then you have Olafare, God of the wind. Like that, you have Kori, the god or goddess of the infancy. Orishaiwe, Kori. So all of them like that were saddled with different kind of responsibility. So this particular Lua was saddled with the responsibility of interfacing between God and mankind. Don't forget that these people that came, they were not just ordinary human beings, because they were not given back to. God just sent them from where they were with God to come and start managing or administering the earth that God had created with them. And so, of course, they were giving birth, they were mixing with one another, the male, meeting with the female, and they were producing. So God now terminated the word through the prophetic message he gave to the mankind through Noah, that Noah go onto the mountain top and erect an ark-like object that will serve as a refuge for those that will want to be rescued. So only those that heeded that prophetic advice survived. Only those that heeded it. You know, human beings will definitely want to disregard such. So only few people, alongside with Noah, survived the flood. And so those ones, after the flood had gone down and the water level had gone down, they came down. They descended back to this side and then started the new life. And that was the era started by Noah. They will call the man Noah in the Bible. What we know is not Noah, it's Noah. You know, they came to steal our story and then repackage it and so sold it back to us. Everything, most of the things that is written in the Bible and Quran actually represent our history, you know, which they came to steal and then repackage to us. So they started this new word called Ife Oyilagbo. What's the meaning of Ife Oyilagbo? Ife of the survivors of the flood. Lagbo simply means turbulence. Anything that cause disarray, anything that cause, you know, this, it could be disaster, it could be accident, it could be war, turbulence. So Oyilagbo, survivors of the turbulence. These are the ones that established the, you know, second era of mankind. And that era was initially led by Noah, but we call him Noah here. And that's why till today, anybody that behaves, you know, in obedience to word advice from the elders, or, you know, anybody that carries the ethos of good virtue is referred as Omoluabi or Motiluabi. Omoluabi is actually, it's not referring to Noah, it's actually referring to Lua that led the people back to form the next era of mankind. So that's why we are referred to today as Omoluabi. And so they also existed for several thousands of years, and there was a need to expand this, to expand the territory, because this territory could no longer contain them. You know, they had increased, you know, sporadically in population. So this immediate environment could no longer contain them. So there was a need to expand beyond this space. And so what did they do? The then leadership now came up with what we today know as a policy. It was just a policy, expansionist policy. So they came up with that expansionist policy and then adopted migration, okay, as a key instrument to achieve that policy. And so that was why they now began to second people from Ife. You know, this contingent just moved towards eastward. As we are going, whatever, they will give them the